been a big UAP news day up here in Canada, my friend.
Yeah, I know, and I've been trying really hard. I've been trying really hard to get as excited as you are because I understand why you're excited, and I think you're in full right to be excited. But I must admit I'm struggling a little bit. I do apologize.
Well, you know what though, dude, up here it has been so hard to get anything out of the nation's capital with the phrase UFO or the phrase UAP. And to finally have it happen and to know that 2 years of hard work for me, and I'm sounding selfish here, but there were other people involved like Daniel Otis. But for me, 2 years investment into this story to finally come out,
So
it's awesome.
so you may have done this before, so you may not want to do it again. But I would ask a favor. Would you mind just like giving me like a 30-second recap of exactly what went on over the last 2 years that you believe led up to this? That
Sure.
you were involved in, you know?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. 2 years ago, I was contacted by someone in Ottawa who was listening to the show, and they had an interest in UAPs and if I knew anything about Canada's role in this. And we started talking. We
Yes, I
built a
remember.
trust with each other. And over time, I was able to ask questions. I never will give up the source ever, but it all culminated today when Member of Parliament Larry Maguire from Manitoba sat in front of the National Committee of Natural Resources and basically asked a UAP question, saying that he has heard of 3 reports of UAPs or drones hovering over nuclear energy facilities here in Canada, because we don't have nuclear weapons here. We don't. We're nuclear weapon free. All right. I know you guys got like 6,000 missiles, can destroy the earth 28 times over, but up here we just don't need them because you got enough down there. We'll let you waste your money on them.
If that helps you
Right?
sleep at night, you go right ahead, Dave.
It totally does. Totally does. But the idea was, over time we have talked, we've exchanged information, and about 8 months ago, as I was searching for somebody to help me with this story, I got in touch with Daniel Otis. And part of that trade with Daniel and I helping each other out was that I would introduce him to my sources in Ottawa. And Daniel posted a video today of Larry Maguire asking about the UAPs and wanting a report on it, which is huge. And then I followed up because I talked to my sources right after with my excitement that I was having, and we were having a good laugh and everything along those lines. And I said, don't forget to scratch my hand too. And my sources told me today that, the SCU board or SCU members from Canada, along with Hal Puthoff, have met with members of Parliament in Ottawa via Zoom meeting just a few weeks ago.
Including Puthoff.
Including Hal Puthoff.
Wow.
So my excitement is when a story finally comes together. This is the excitement of journalism. This is when it's all worth it. This moment right now. And it's very nice to be able to see that those 3 little little letters UAP come out of a politician's mouth in Canada, because we've been trying so hard, John.
Can I ask one question, Dave?
Please.
If the whole thing had played out exactly how it did, but instead all the language had been using, it was all UAP, right? Were you okay with that?
I'm fine.
Okay, all right. I know you're not a big fan of that term, so that's what I'm curious. Yeah.
No. I hate the term UAP. Of course I do.
Yeah, no, I was just surprised. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the idea though that it finally came through, We're pretty happy over that. Pretty happy over that because John, it's hard to break a story. It's very hard, especially with so many different acronyms and news agencies and
Okay,
social media. It's very hard.
So the individual who exposed themselves on the floor to ask this question, what is in it for them to be doing this?
Curiosity.
Oh, okay. That's far
The
out,
idea,
man. That's
the
totally
idea,
cool. Yeah, cool.
the idea that they want to know if this is happening in Canadian airspace. Why are we so secretive about it? What are we not seeing? What are we not reporting? Canada, as I stated with Victor, and Victor agreed, has a very long history, John, where people still take the government at their word. Okay. People's, yeah. I mean, we haven't graduated up to, hating government. We're almost there. Trust me, we're almost there.
You're working on it, man.
Yeah. We are working hard on that. Okay. We are, and we can thank the current prime minister for that over a number of years of, I'm not going to get into that. Not going to get into that. But nonetheless, the fact that it was actually brought up is offensive.
So if you could paint for me like like what would you consider to be like you just maybe like two likely reasonably likely outcomes of this, and maybe comment on which one you'd like to see more.
Sure. My likely, as my prediction earlier, if everybody here who's listening to this show reads the newspapers or that watches the television news mainstream in Canada, this story will not make the news. Our media up here is too concentrating on what's happening in the Ukraine.
Oh, well.
What is happening around the world?
Well, and within your own politics, right? I mean,
within our own politics, that's calmed down now. But if it's not COVID or if it's not Ukraine right now, and if it's not something to do with wokeism, it will not make the air. And I would be surprised if any major newspaper actually jumps on how big this story is. That is how ignorant our media has become at proper journalism. And I'm not just saying this because it's UFO, and I'm a UFO wingnut, and so are all of our listeners. Well, the majority of them. Okay, I'm saying this as a national interest story that the topic of UFOs has actually come up in Canadian Parliament. That is massive. And the public has a right to know, even if they don't believe in the subject, John, they have a right to know why our politicians are talking about this.
Well, look, I mean, if you want to go out on a statistical limb and assume that like the rest of the world is somehow devoid of any of these experiences, you have to at least assume that the three countries sharing a continent, perhaps, because I have my doubts that anyone's going to pay attention to political borders that only appear on maps, right? So to assume that the Mexican government and the Canadian government have not had at least a factor of the activity that the U.S. has would just be insane. And so then you have to ask, what's been going on? Have you guys all just been handing it over, or are you doing your own program? Either way, as Mexicans or as Canadians, you might want to know that,
Well, absolutely. This isn't a U.S. problem. This is a world problem. We don't know if the aliens are here for the good, the bad, or the ugly. We don't know. We do not know. We can assume where they come from. And I'm still on the assumption that they come from outer space. I am in that assumption. All right. Or
If
a
you don't mind
different
me
time.
asking real quick, along with
Yeah.
that assumption, is your current assumption involve multiple parties?
Define that.
Many different groups coming or interacting, meaning that
I
some
think
could be terrestrial, some could be from another some could be from interdimensional. That basically all possibilities could be simultaneous. Or do you believe it's a very finite number of groups that are making contact?
I think there are a number of species that have come here. I mean, dude, we are like the Kmart blue light special. And when they see the blue light linking way up 1 billion miles into the stars, they're going to get excited. And why not come check it out? I mean, let's face it, our radio waves have blasted all across the solar system. We don't know how far they've traveled yet.
Well, and if you believe, the presentation by our friend Ramirez, technically, some kid's ant farm just got nukes, and the kids are really curious what those ants are doing, right?
Exactly.
Right? I mean,
That's exactly it. I mean, why not? We are the greatest reality television show in the universe. We really are. We got everything. We got sex, we got blood, we got war, we got sports, we got concerts, we got everything.
and even those of us that live here repeatedly comment that reality is far, far stranger than fiction, and this is so
You got
true.
that right.
I mean,
You know,
all you got to do is travel the world a little bit, and you will see it fast.
you know what I want as a present for helping break this story? I want Geraldo Rivera's mustache framed and put on my wall.
Wow,
I've wanted that's a
that
35-year wish.
That went.
That's
So
what I want. That's
that
what
was
I
not
want.
the direction. Wow.
Yeah, I want that mustache. Oh, he's so horrible. He's so
I
horrible.
gotta say, Dave, I think in light of the obscurity of your request, there's actually a chance you might get it. I wouldn't give up hope. I
Oh,
wouldn't give up hope.
if I could grow a lip blade like that, imagine how much more ahead of the game I would be right now.
Well, let's just hope you have better luck. You have better luck showing people things than he did with that. What was it? Al Capone's vault.
Al Capone's vault. Yeah.
Oh, that was bad.
That was horrible. 1 hour.
How does that happen?
Remember the hype up to that? Remember the hype?
How does that happen?
Oh man, how do you blow that one?
I hope people got.
How do you blow that one? Only Geraldo's mustache could blow that one.
And he survived, kind of.
Barely. John, I'm curious, considering the relationship between Canada and the United States goes well beyond the military, it goes well beyond UFOs. We're so tied together. Do you think that the fact that this has opened up now the conversation and the dialogue in Canada, that it will make any sort of news or waves within the United States?
I don't think it'll make any public waves. I think what you will get is you will get a whole rash of people in the U.S. Calling up, texting and messaging their friends over in Canada and going, now you get to deal with it. I guarantee there's a ton of that going on. Because you're right. I mean, there's so much. I mean, people don't realize how much cross-pollination there is. I do not believe that there are, let me think about this before I say this. With the exception of like wholly owned countries like Quebec, I don't think there are any other countries around that are adjacent to each other that are as close and intertwined as the U.S. and Canada is. I mean, you look at the way NORAD has been created. You look at, I mean, just look at signals intelligence. Forget everything else. Just look at signals intelligence. Just look at that group, right, or those groups. Man, the camaraderie and the respect is outstanding. I mean, just outstanding. And this happens at so many levels, at so many different places. And honestly, you would have a tremendous amount of trouble separating the two of us if you tried.
Very true. Very true. And I think, you know what, in messaging with Lou Elizondo today, and how proud he was that Larry McGuire came out, as well as talking to Paul Kingsbury today from the board of the SCU, where he was saying he was absolutely, as a Canadian, very pleased with Larry McGuire talking about the UAP subject and finally making it public. I think this is
and
opens up
doing
a
a
number of people
respectable. Sorry, go ahead. No, please.
no, please. I was just
I
finishing.
was gonna I was gonna say and doing just a really nice. I know I this may sound silly to people, but I really crave and I so enjoy hearing the UAP topic discussed in the plain banana or public tones of any kind of government language, right? I mean, like you want it like at that boring level almost, right? And that's exactly what he gave us. He gave us just at the rubber, just boom, what's going on? This is why it's important. Do something about it, right? And it was nice. It was good and clean.
All right, let's move on here because there are a couple other big stories that have happened. Number one, out of UAPx, former Spaced Out Sundays host Michael W. Hall, aka the Paranormal Lawyer, a nickname that I gave him, has been fired from UAPx. And this comes as a shock to many of us within the community because Michael W. Hall is such a likable guy and he is very knowledgeable. He's very smart. He has allowed numerous people within the community to free legal advice. He's our lawyer here. I do have to disclose that. He is our continuing to be our lawyer here
And
for
it is
Space
it
Out
is
Radio.
it was made clear that they actually terminated him personally. They did not terminate the role.
They removed him from their board.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Now the story that I heard about this, and I'll thank Thomas Fessler and Disclosure Tonight because that's where I found out about it. They were saying that allegedly Michael W. Hall had had potentially broken his NDA. As a lawyer, I don't see that happening. And knowing Michael personally, I don't see that happening. But then again, I wasn't there. I don't know.
It'd be so bizarrely out of character but anyway, yeah.
I mean, if anybody knows the law, it's a lawyer. And Michael's been a practicing lawyer for 40 plus years. I'm pretty sure he's going to know what he can and cannot say.
And he's one of those humans that was born a lawyer. Like he didn't have a choice. He was going to become a lawyer, whether he liked it or not.
He actually went to college for broadcast journalism.
I don't doubt it. I'm sure he tried very hard not to be a lawyer.
He did. But the fact that, what's going to be interesting here is, Gary Voorhees has got rid of some very, very stalwart people recently. And there seems to be, and I'm not trying to make drama here, but if you lose, look, there's always turnover. When it comes to volunteers, there's always turnover. Okay. And everybody's a volunteer on that right now. But I mean, the idea behind it is, there's a lot of big public, how can we put it? Names from Dave Altman.
Yeah. But here's the thing, Dave, like one of the things that you learn doing startups is that you're really tempted to focus on grabbing major league players. And what you quickly learn is that a team that works well together is more important and more valuable than a star player that not only doesn't coalesce with the group, but their existence disrupts the group, right? And so I've been in situations where we've had to offshoot or even I've been in that situation where it just like it happens, right? I mean, it just happens where things don't click, and a lot of times it's more about personality and culture than it is about skill sets.
Well, I mean, the idea that they're allegedly so close to releasing their information and their documentary, it just amazes me that at this critical juncture in time that they would make another change. Now, we don't know what is going on around the inside of Gary Voorhees, but I mean, if you look at UAPx, okay,
But I mean, there was that's I mean, because gotta tell you, like, I was kind of I was excited about UAPx as anyone else until I talked to him. And when I was on his show and when he was doing Sunday Night with Hugo, and he brought up the fact that they had actually gotten results from whale calls, um, I was absolutely stunned, like stunned that he was able to tell me that, and he was able to say it on the air. I was stunned, and all I did was just trust. He's a lawyer. He must know what he's doing. He obviously knows what he's doing. He's not going to say it if he can't say it. He can say it. But I was thinking to myself, how did he say that? How could you tell people that? And the thing is that, you know, we don't know if there were other, you know, other instances like that, but I doubt it, because, you know, I mean, lawyers are lawyers by nature, and so to me it seems more likely that it was just, just a lack of team, you know, of team building.
well, you know what? Like I said, I mean, there are a number of people who I have, kind of moved on regarding this. You know, it started with apparently there was a confrontation between Gary Voorhees and agent and producer Dave Altman. Whatever happened there,
Well, yeah,
happened.
no. If
You
they get
know,
rid of a few more people, they can get a whole nother team. We could do like a Megadeth from like a Metallica thing. That'd be fun.
ooh, that would be very interesting.
Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be very interesting.
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, Altman as Mustaine. Totally.
Oh, Dave Altman is
Totally see that.
totally Dave Mustaine.
Totally
He's
see
totally
that.
Dave Mustaine. Oh my goodness. All right, finally tonight, Gary Nolan has been doing a lot of Twitter lives recently.
Yeah, and this one just, I mean, you know, honestly, I don't know how many he's done, and this one caught me off guard. It was only because a kind friend of mine reached out to me on Saturday and with a link and said, "Hey, this is happening right now." And so luckily I happened to be around. I missed a large portion of it, but I was able to jump into it, and um, uh I was shocked. You know, I mean, Gary Nolan comes off as being very, you know, comfortable in his own skin and easy to talk to in his interviews and so forth. But you know, you never know how people are going to be in a forum where, you know, where questions aren't screened. You know, and it was cool. It was really cool. It was very honest. It was very just down to earth, and you know, there was some really, you know, what I found very interesting questions that we actually got answers from. I mean, I don't know if you've had Bruce Fenton on the show, but Bruce has been a friend of mine for a long time, and really good researcher, and you know, I mean, he came up with a really good question. He basically asked, you know, if people who, you know, were having, you know, these contact experiences and who had this kind of, this kind of data, you know, was there any, you know, any correlation between that and people being on the spectrum, right? And because basically, you know, because the thing is that one of the most bizarre things that Gary Nolan discovered is that couples tend to have this, which means there's selection for it, which means that we can sense it in each other in some sort of way, which is really weird, right? And so yeah, I mean, this stuff just gets, you know, I mean, what Gary Nolan's doing, it's really amazing work. I mean, he's just a brilliant guy and he's doing some amazing stuff.
Why do you think he's decided recently to step into the open public about this, John? Because for so long he was quite quiet. He liked being on the outside looking in, and it seems like recently he's really delved deep into public ufology.
Well, I think that ultimately he, you know, that whole DNA thing he went through with that little baby alien thing, um, I think that got him hooked. I think it did. I think he really enjoyed it, and I think he enjoyed working with the community more than he expected to. And I think that, you know, to a certain degree, um, you know, uh, it's kind of hard to put a finger on exactly how much money that boy has made in some of his ventures. And so, you know, it might just be that he's, you know, just reached a point where he's, you know, comfortable enough and stable enough, and his boy, man, his status at Stanford, oh man,
Oh yeah,
no, yeah, I mean, he can do no harm. So it might just be because he's certainly smart enough and aware enough to know that sometimes there are people that have to do things not because they want to, but because they're in a role where they can. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Gary Nolan's doing it for partly that reason, because he recognizes that he's someone who can do it. And I think his relationship with Jacques Vallée has had a huge impact as well.
I think so. John, another great unbiased UFO report.
Thank you,
We
sir.
will.
And congratulations on this news, Dave. I know you've been working
Thank
for a
you.
long time. So yeah, no, awesome stuff, man. Good stuff. Yeah.